everybody. Welcome to the Just Dice Cast. I'm your host, Mr. Cupcake, again. And today I'm joined by some special guests who, if you put us all in a Venn diagram of Central Florida gaming, it would kind of look like a circle. Because first off, we've got JDL member and LRPG member, Pookie, a.k.a. Will.
Good evening. How you doing?
And we got JDL member and LRPG Seneschal, Preacher, a.k.a. Tracie.
Hello, hello.
And we got JDL member and LRPG Guildmaster and HMGS-S Veep, Metalhead, a.k.a. Scott.
Rock on, everybody.
So today we're talking Star Wars, specifically a series of games that my guests are going to be running, sponsored by the Lakeland Role-Playing Guild, the LRPG, at Hurricon 2017, which is the convention run by HMGS South at the end of September. And to give our listeners a little bit of context, 3 years ago we ran a Star Wars-themed series of games a few months prior to the release of Force Awakens at Hurricon 2015 as sort of a celebration for the continuation of the saga, and just kind of because we're all big Star Wars fans. And what we did was we created like a common story arc. It was set in the immediate aftermath of the Battle of Endor, and it kind of tied all the games together. And then we had the games affect each other in subtle ways, nothing too crazy, but the goal was to give players a sense that they weren't gaming in a vacuum, and that their decisions would have an impact beyond the immediate game that they were playing. And build towards a climactic battle, which Metalhead ran. It was tons of fun. In the event, we ended up with total cross-platform, so we ended up with games run in a few different Star Wars RPG systems, as well as miniatures games using X-Wing Armada, and we even brought back the old West End game system, Star Wars Miniature Battles. It turned out to be so much fun, and we got such great feedback that a year later we did the same basic structure with a medieval-themed Lions and Leopards series of games. And now y'all are going to go for a three-peat, my guests here, and they're going to bring it back to the Star Wars universe. So Scott, how about give us a quick overview of what you guys have planned, and maybe set up a little teaser for the game you'll be running.
All right, roger that, Mr. Cupcake. As you had mentioned back at Hurricon 2015 when we ran Echoes of the Sith, we had a lot of games. And all the games that were in that were a lot of fun and were all important. What I'd like to call like tentpole games. The game series that is going to be happening at Hurricon 2017 happens concurrently with the events of Echoes of the Sith. Things happening in the background, in and amongst those tentpoles. Because of that, I've decided to name this little mini-series Shadows of the Sith. It is going to be on a smaller scale, not as ambitious and not as grandiose as the Echoes campaign. We are going to have only 4 games, 3 RPGs, followed by 1 collective wrap-up tabletop miniatures game that is going to be more of a tactical RPG. There will, rather than just a straight-up miniature war game, there will be some RP going on in it as well. Of those games, we are going to have 2 different RPG rule sets in play. We're going to have the classic Star Wars D20 Revised that was published by Wizards of the Coast several years ago, and we also are going to have games using the Star Wars storytelling dice game system from Fantasy Flight Games that currently is running and is growing in popularity. As I said, the overall arc of our 4-part game series will be in the background and concurrent with the events of 2 years ago. The first game will be mine, and I'll be running that Friday night, and because it is my go-to rule set for everything, almost, and I love it dearly, I will be the one running Star Wars D20 Revised. My game is called Internal Affairs, and it focuses on a team of Imperial Security Bureau agents who are going to Cloud City to investigate the garrison that Darth Vader left there during the events of Empire Strikes Back. The garrison has been in place the garrison has been filing its reports, but over time, those reports have become more vague and more bare bones, bullet point information. At the same time, again, referencing the Echoes of the Sith campaign that all of us ran, there is an upswing in Imperial military activity in the Outer Rim. And no one knows why, because at this point in time, in the Star Wars universe, nobody is giving orders to carry out these actions. So ISB thinks something might be amiss. Number one, the garrison on Cloud City is not following protocol, and they are staying just this side of the line of meeting obligations. And there's also this other activity happening. So the team is sent to investigate and find out just exactly what the heck is going on. At the same time, there are little bits of crumbs of other storyline ideas that are in place in Cloud City. Because of the garrison and because of the fact not everybody could evacuate from the city, and there are some members of the Cloud City administration still on site. There is a bit of a shadow war going on within the city. Some of those events may pop up. Knowing players like I do, that's probably what they're going to follow rather than the main point I have for the game, but we'll see. But I have those little kernels in there because Pookie and I, a couple of years ago, bounced around the idea of it would be cool to see what actually was happening on Bespin in the aftermath of the Empire, of the Empire's failure at Endor. So with those little kernels in place, we can, in the future, possibly revisit that and delve in a little bit deeper. But the core point of the game is the ISB and the garrison and the Imperial military activity. Should the ISB agents be successful in their mission on Cloud City, they might be able to ascertain where some of these resources, all this increased Tabana gas production, is going, and that will shunt this team kind of in a bit of a holding pattern at the conclusion of my game session, and they will hit the field again in session number 4 at the end of the series. But we'll get to that in a little bit. For right now, we can shunt everything over to Pookie, and he can hit a few little highlights on the game he's going to be running in session number 2.
I didn't know if you want to say something in between here, Eric. So
oh no, you're good. Go ahead, kick us off, man. No, I'm taking notes so I can ask follow-up questions later. There'll be a test.
Okay.
There will be a test.
Oh wow, like a reporter. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't say they were coherent questions. I just
okay.
Or if they were even about the game, just that you jotted the questions down.
I was actually just going to ask, what kind of cologne does he wear?
Uji Gamer. It's not for everyone. I'm actually going to be using the Fantasy Flight Games Edge of the Empire system. I do like the system quite a bit. It does allow, as a GM, it does allow me to kind of do a little more cinematic things in the game rather than just having a lot of numbers roll and everything. And I think it sort of lends itself to the storytelling, which is what I like to do in my games. But in essence, the game is a sequel to the original game that I wrote, where the adventurers did a favor for some representatives of the mining guild, which led them to Bespin. And this one, they're also going to do a favor for people in the imperial bureaucratic structure, but I don't really want to give away exactly who is asking them to do it, but suffice to say that they're going to be trying to track some funds that appear to go off into the nether regions for no apparent reason and try to track them down to where they're going to end up and what they're essentially going to be used for. and the adventure is going to take place on a couple of planets. I think I've worked it out where I can get them to a couple of locations as far as worlds, and then some more. The last planet, there's going to be some more in-depth things, and I think. From the discussions we three had together, that we've got some pretty good ideas about how to kind of flesh out some of the things that may have been on the edge of the Star Wars canon, sort of bring it a little more in depth, sort of make a little bit more interesting interactions between some of the various factions that are involved. And I think my adventure and all the adventures in this group are going to probably do that, going to actually add a little more depth to some things. But that's basically what we're going to do. It's going to be a party of 6. We're going to try to have a nice cross section of the various character classes that Fantasy Flight has in their system, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
And that brings us to part 3. What was the name of your game, Will, again? What was that?
I'm sorry. It's called Credit Shuffle.
Credit Shuffle. Yeah, you said it the first time, but that's a little inside joke.
There was no first time, Eric.
Yeah,
this is the only time we've ever
purely
done this.
imagination. All right. So,
right. No. This has all been. No. This is the first time.
So, Shadows of the Sith, part 3.
Part 3, the shell game. My part is also being played with Edge of Empire from Fantasy Flight Games, and we're all the way out in the Outer Rim. My part deals with scoundrels and ne'er-do-wells, and a Hutt crime lord has determined that one of his distant relatives is making money that he's not sure how he's making that money, and so he wants in on this game. If there is money to be had, he is certain that he can do it better, and wants to kind of find out who the benefactor is or who the client is, and steal them away. So he hires this group of people who will do pretty much anything for money, and sends them to go find this information out.
You brought the JDL into this?
Well, you guys weren't running the game. I figured, we'll just do it this way. We'll have you all as characters.
Realistic take.
So they this Hutt crime lord hires this group and sends them off to figure out who this distant relative is working for or with or whatever. And so there's going to be a lot of intrigue and a lot of running around, and hopefully getting us to where we all need to be at the final game, which takes us back to part 4, which runs us back up to Scott.
Part 4, the culmination.
All right. Yes, part 4. This is the tabletop miniatures tactical RPG, and the name is the Hutt Hoedown. Members, the groups of the previous 3 adventures, along with some NPC groups that the player characters will be interacting with in their respective adventures, are all going to be put together in the form of miniature wargame squads. And they're all going to have a very large scrum at a common location that their respective storyline threads are designed to lead them to. But once again, we have to deal with players. So there's always a chance that a group might not make it, or a group
Nothing
might
ruins
have
a good game.
Like players.
GM, like players. Yeah, just
exactly.
players.
These are great stories until we sit down that day. Yeah.
I don't even hear any crap because Lions and Leopards, what you guys did to me was, I didn't have anything for it. It was so bizarre. But anyway, that's a whole nother.
I did nothing.
But once again, that was the players.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Well, we'll talk about that later. But yes, with the Hutt Space Hoedown, the character groups are wargame skirmish squads. I'm going to be using a stripped down version of the D20 RPG rule set. It's the same setup that I used for the large culmination game that we ran 2 years ago to close out Echoes of the Sith. There will be a very, very, very similar approach. There will be initiative. There will be a lot of shooting. There will be a little bit of trap finding, a little bit of puzzle solving. But there also will be there will not be as breakneck of a pace as there is with a traditional straight up war game, because I want the parties to kind of interact. I want the player or players running each squad to be able to give voice to the motivation and the actions of their groups. Plus, it's not just going to be a matter of everybody get together and shoot each other like it's the OK Corral. Each team is going to have a specific mission, a specific goal or objective in this tactical environment that will be related to the overall elements of the Shadows of the Sith storyline.
Okay.
So it will be as much a kill point collection as it will be a capture the flag collection to determine actual victory. And it is possible, however unlikely, that every group could technically win their objective. It is also possible that none of them could and will just stand there and gleefully shoot the hell out of each other. Somewhere in the middle probably is what will ultimately happen. But
he acts like that's a bad thing. That's
right?
what I don't.
Yeah, and considering that this game is going to be run Saturday night after we have all been up, running about, playing games, having a good time, engaging in the odd drink or two.
I am shocked and offended that you would imply that.
Just water and coffee for me.
Water and coffee, that's right.
Yeah, well, of course.
I'm not saying nothing.
Running a tactical game may not be the wisest choice. I do seem to remember there being a fair bit of punchiness doing this at Echoes, but since we only have 4 games to work with in our current storyline, as opposed to the 12 or 14 that we had with Echoes, there may be a little bit less frantic twitching going on at that point.
Assuming no RPG has a total party kill. There's that.
There is that too. There is that too.
Well, then we can go into Force Spirits. We can just do Force Spirits. I mean, there you go. You gotta be creative with these games, you know.
Right.
So then with the completion of the Hut Space Hoedown, that will close out the Shadows of the Sith storyline. And unless I can pull something out of thin air, we probably will not have any more narrative material to wring out of this particular sequence of events. That are the core of Shadows and the core of Echoes. So anything we do as another follow-up at some point in the future, while it will be set at this relative time point, it should be much more of an original narrative stepping off point than what we're doing this time.
Kind of like a Phoenix approach, whatever the ashes that are left. Because I do have. Go ahead and finish what you're doing. I got a couple questions for you, pertinent questions to what you're saying.
Nope. That was it. That was the wrap up. That was the close of that.
So point number 1.
Your Phoenix comment was point on.
Okay, we can Phoenixing from that. Is that a verb? Can you Phoenix from something?
I'm just
we can Eric things.
If we can Eric things, we can Phoenix things.
All right. Yeah, the people listening have no clue what we're talking about. I'm doing a very poor bird hand puppet right now, and actually Scott's on the phone, so he can't even see this. He's spared it. Maybe that's the better way of saying that. But so one of the points of confusion that the common question that I faced with both Echoes of the Sith and with Lions and Leopards You don't have to play every game.
Correct.
Is that so? I'm assuming you
Correct.
guys are doing the same. Okay, so now that's not to say
Correct.
it's a great idea to do it. I mean, by all means, I recommend if you can be there the whole weekend and you're there for the whole con, and you're an RPGer, this is a great experience to be a part of, because that's one thing you don't get at the conventions normally is a complete RPG experience. So that's
Right.
one thing.
And since none of our games are going to be running on top of each other, they're all going to be in their own respective game sessions. It is mechanically possible for an individual to play in all 4 games. Whereas with our old Echoes game from 2 years ago, it was a logistical impossibility for someone to play every single game.
Right. And that's kind of the advantage. There's 3 reasons why I think this is going to be awesome. Okay. One, I love the fact that you guys are continuing the story that we kind of started the fire, and like I said, you guys are going to create something we can kind of continue on. So I really hope I can be bigger part of it next time. The second thing is, for everybody listening, I've talked to all 3 of these GMs individually, and they both have put a lot of work into it. They've met formally to have a meeting and talk about what to play. So it's going to be well thought out.
I'm sorry, you said both of us? There's like 3 of us here.
What did I say? Did I say both? It's because
You said
you know what it is?
both.
It's because I can only see 2 of you on my screen. So like I'm thinking both. All right, so all 3 of you guys,
Ow.
man alive, I'm just batting 1,000 tonight. So all 3 of you, you're all 3 good GMs, and you're all 3. I can right now to me, like I can see Preacher, I can see Pookie, and then Metalhead is a icon of a phone. So he's a disembodied phone or not.
So
But anyway,
many comments
yeah.
to make, but I'm not going to.
So the 3 of you guys have done a lot of work behind the scenes. I've exchanged emails with Metalhead a couple times. But the other thing, like I kind of touched on a second ago, is it really is an immersive experience. And that's kind of how we started this whole concept. It came to life because Scott and I were Metalhead. Sorry, dang. We're sitting around talking, and I love miniature gaming. That's my wheelhouse is miniature gaming. I grew up in RPGs, but I've definitely become more of a miniature gamer. And my I don't want to say slight or like the weakness in miniature games is they tend to not have a lot of depth. It's play for 3 hours and then scramble around for the last hour and metagame. That's a lot of times what happens at conventions. So we wanted to kind of create something to do some kind of continuity. And the way to do that was through the RPGs. So that's kind of what I'm excited about, to see how it all unfolds, because like you said, Metalhead, who knows what these players are going to do.
Right.
Especially in a convention environment.
And
Right.
I think we've
Where-
all known.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm excited too, because I've played both game systems. I've played, and I like them both. I think they both have their merits. And I think the one thing I will say though is that the con with the FFG line is also its pro, is it's very abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost like, what I almost feel like is if Savage Worlds and the D20 Star Wars got in a tug of war, and the rope broke right where FFG's game system is, if that makes any sense.
That's kind of a fair thing. It is more of a storytelling system, and the only difference is Savage Worlds. I enjoy Savage Worlds quite a lot, because I think that's one of the best systems to get RPG people started in, because the rules are relatively simple, the character creation is pretty straightforward, and there's not a whole lot of stats and numbers and things you got to do, and you can customize a little bit. So if you get somebody started in that, it's a little easier to get them into the role playing. Edge of Empire is a little more difficult. I mean, there's a lot more trying to figure out what you roll in your dice pool is sometimes a little hectic to do. So you have to kind of like just spell it out for them what they got to do with certain stats. But it does still allow a little bit more customization, and it does allow, like I said before, it does allow the DM to kind of be a little bit more cinematic in what they're doing in their game.
Which is
and allows you to follow that rule of improv of yes and.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's not hit your DC of 15 or not, it was, did you succeed and did you get any advantages or disadvantages? And so you can still allow some things to happen even if they technically failed the roll. So as a DM, you can, if they failed the roll but have 2 advantages, as a DM, you can still give them some of that information that they need to have. It's not all lost where you're then scrambling to figure out where do I railroad this bit of information in later because, they failed the roll so poor, by so much that it wouldn't make sense to hand it to them.
Yeah, it's like you didn't get the lock open of a door, but somehow you managed to make one of the blast doors close and block out a couple of the troopers, kind of thing, Or the other side is actually a lot more fun for the DM because that's then, well, yeah, you got the lock open, but you made a squealing noise and that horrible creature that's hiding in the corner goes, hey, lunch, that kind of thing. So,
but at the same time, I think that the tactical game is better suited for the D20 system because you have to have that concreteness. Because Scott, you ran it last time. I thought you did a great job. And that's one thing. I know you expressed some that things might go sideways this time, but I have confidence in you because that was the very first time you ran it, and it was a successful run.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I was concerned. 2 years ago, I was concerned about how this was going to carry through. Doing something that was more of a miniature war game element to it, and dice are a fickle thing. Cupcake and Pookie both know that very, very well.
Well, it's not fickle at all with us. We know it's going to be low.
Yeah, it's just bad.
It's very predictable.
It's just bad. Very.
Plus, I don't have as much current experience running miniature games as I do RPG games. Back many, many years ago, I had a fair handful of BattleTech miniature games under my belt. As far as running them, it had only been the past couple of years where I've gotten back into running the miniatures portion. So some of those drops are pretty rusty. But ultimately, I think it worked out well. Having it as a hybrid system it ended up being very beneficial for me. I could actually throw out something narrative as if I'm a game master in an RPG, and let the players do some chattering amongst themselves, while I take a minute, look at some of my reference cards, and decide what's going to happen next on the grid.
Right.
So that was a helpful stepping process.
Now I have to ask: is the thing that's under the place going to come back into it?
No.
Okay. So that could be our Phoenix later.
It could be. It could be, yes. I'm thinking we could leave that thing, the sci-fi MacGuffin, if you will.
Yes.
We could leave that
thing again.
Yes.
Were you in that conversation, Tracie?
I don't think so, because I wasn't able to. So the Echoes of the Sith campaign was the first HMGS show I went to, and I could only go on Friday. Friday was my day off, and I could go on that, but I couldn't go Saturday because I had to get up really early Sunday morning. And so I only played in Pookie's game and Metalhead's game, and that was it. Of the Echoes of Sith game.
It wasn't at. It was at the BattleTech game. Did you play in the first BattleTech game we did?
At Guild?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Guild, yes.
Okay, you might have missed it because I'm going to throw myself way under the bus here because Scott's reading the description. We're going back in the email, and I'm like, that is the dumbest name for a material in a sci-fi universe. MacGuffin. I'm like, why would they be fighting over something called MacGuffin? I'm like, call it like Titranium or something like that. And I couldn't figure out what he was talking about because I never knew the term. So finally, I'm like, Scott, you got to tell me what the hell. I Googled it. It's not on Sarna.net. What the hell is MacGuffin? And sure enough, it's nothing. It's just literary.
Yeah, it is a cinematic trope mechanic. Yep. That is common and actually was kind of born in the film noir genre.
Yeah.
Normally, it's a thing that everybody is fighting over and everybody wants to get, but you never see it.
That
yes.
thing.
Bottom line,
that
stay
thing.
in school, kids. Stay in school.
Yes.
Yeah. So you guys, Pookie and
yes.
Preacher can probably so Edge of Empires, Force of Destiny, and Age of Rebellion are 100% compatible, but each one adds something to the world, the game, that is unique to the characters in that expansion. And I remember,
I believe
pretty
so.
much.
Yes.
Force
Yeah.
points is like dark points and light points or something.
Well,
It's
no, it kind of goes to the background
morality.
story. Yeah, morality or
that's it.
obligation, or I think there's another one for rebellion, and I'm sorry, the name escapes me at the moment.
Right,
but it's one of the things that when you create your character, it gives them impetus for what they're doing. It's one of the things that kind of adds to flesh out the character. A little hard to deal with in a convention setting because
Sure.
it's more suited to a campaign where this thing, this inner drive, or this thing that keeps the character moving forward is only gonna is gonna occur every so often, and then in a one shot, it's not really gonna be as prevalent. But that's really the main difference. They all use the same dice. They all use the same skill system. One thing I found, I've actually I went ahead and got the core rule books for both Force and Destiny and Age of Rebellion, just so I could have more character races, more kind of backgrounds, more different classes, just to kind of mush them all together. But they seem to work together fine, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, they do, and they also did a beginner box, because each of those little subsystems within it has a beginner box and then the core rule book, and you can play with just the beginner box to get started. So when Force Awakens came out, they did a beginner box for Force Awakens, and it has a small supplement within it. They're not releasing a core rulebook for that because it's simply just the little expansion set in the beginner box gives you the information to take it into that time period. So that's part of the other thing, is the setting. So Age of Rebellion is dealing with the time with the rebels and all of that. Edge of Empire is dealing with the Outer Rim and the people you don't normally see in the movies. And Force and Destiny is dealing with the time after the Jedi Purge, and there aren't any Jedi anymore. And so you have Force-sensitive individuals, but no Jedi to train them. And so then Force Awakens is how do you deal with the time of the First Order? And so there's bits of that in the beginner box, because we went ahead and got the beginner box too, because why not? And
it's
so
shiny
that's,
and it's there.
and
Two best reasons.
yeah.
Colored bits of string.
Yes, and the beginner boxes are a lot cheaper than the core rulebook. So I was thankful that they did not have a core rulebook coming out for that I would also have to buy, because I already have the other 3 core rulebooks. So
does it just reuse the obligation? Okay, hold on. There's obligation. There's morality, and then what was the one?
Well, I can't remember what's duty. Is it duty?
Does the rebellion have duty or something like that? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Duty.
Yeah, duty sounds right.
You're slow, Eric. I expected that one.
Yeah.
But so
The
Force
interesting
Awakens
thing,
just reuses those, or
I'm not sure, because I didn't really flip through it. I just opened it and went, ooh, tokens and a map, and I took the map out because it had the updated star map, and it's never seen the package again.
it's
it
a little
resides
black
in
hole in the middle of the universe where it's like.
The map stays in my gaming bag for any of our other Star Wars games, where I can pull it out and pull, find things.
Yeah,
but
even though they have rotated the galaxy and they've moved planets and shit, but whatever.
Every time.
Hey, we're going to talk about how much better the new canon is in just a minute, Scott. So just hold on.
You.
Oh.
I just finished Inferno Squad.
I thought you wanted to keep this PG.
Actually, we'll probably need to talk about why Babylon 5 is better than all this, but that's okay. I will just get to that some other time.
I might get my pantsuit off, but if somebody slips, we've had a couple slip-ups. I'm going to have to do the lightsaber over the a couple words. Lucas is going to come sue me. Even though he can't sue me. Can Lucas still sue me?
He can't. I don't think he can.
No, he can't.
But Disney can.
The mouse will do it.
Let me be clear here. Anybody can sue anybody for any reason. It's whether you win or not is the question.
Look,
so just
this is my go-to. If I get the letter from the mouse, I'm simply going to do a deliberation in my game room, because they'll walk in and go, he's given us enough money. I think we can leave him alone.
True.
Yes.
True. We all have.
We have taken enough blood from that rock.
And when they send you the cease and desist order,
wait, say again.
when they send you the cease with Cupcake, when they send you the cease and desist order, you have to take a picture of it and put it on your website. Because doing that, you've been established. You are now official.
I'm gonna do a selfie with it, like.
Yes.
Oh man.
Okay, it's your show, man. What's next?
Hey, no, you had a look on your face like you were about to just impart.
I
wisdom.
did. I was just harkening back to the days when there were collectible Star Wars miniatures, and you would talk about shiny bits of string, and we all would broke buying the darn things just to get that one figure we wanted.
You're not talking about the full company of stormtroopers I put out for Echoes of the Sith, are you?
Oh, yeah.
You make that sound like it's in the far past, but I'm pretty sure this happened like last week for some of you, right?
Yeah.
So
That's true.
Well, and that's the tough thing is like the Imperial.
Here's some of my.
And the thing is, the Imperial Assault stuff is absolutely gorgeous. The sculpts on those are just jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and I've been trying. I haven't gone crazy with it, but they've released a couple models that you can't really get the collectible miniature. Well, let me rephrase that. You can get it, but it's even beyond my line where I go, all right, I'm not spending $30 for a dewback Stormtrooper, you know? So yeah. But I'll spend 15.
Really?
I got two.
Because I've seen you spend $30 on stuff before.
Well, I have. But in this case, I'll spend the $15 on the FFG model and then, $15 on paint. So, now that I say it out loud, the logic there is kind of
math. We get back to math. It's
We're really not going to talk about how much you spend on gaming stuff, right?
No,
Cupcake?
Especially because my wife might listen to this. And every gamer's nightmare is that their wife or spouse will sell their stuff for what they said they paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a fear. But
yeah, that was and this is, I'm about to destroy a sponsor here. Listen, Fantasy Flight, I love you guys. I just want to say that right now. If you want to sponsor me, I'm right here. I'm just going to say something that could be construed as critical, but it's just
only because he loves you.
It's just because
but it's
I say
only
this
because
out of
he
love.
loves you. Yes.
And the one thing I feel like they may have missed an opportunity is that their role playing games are not compatible at all with Imperial Assault.
Oh.
I mean, you can use the miniatures,
well,
but I was really surprised that they didn't have. I mean, I'm sure somebody's homegrowned it, but like some type of conversion for the ranges, because that's the one thing. Being a miniature wargamer, the FFG, it's very abstract ranges. Like there's it's short, medium, long. I'm like, yes, but how long? What do I look like on the ruler?
It depends on if you have brought your game master chocolate and or beverages before the game starts on what the definition of short, medium, and long is.
Yeah, see, that's why Scott never does good at the game, because the chocolate never makes it to the session. Yeah, Metalhead will take care of that chocolate en route.
For some of us old guys who used to play Traveler, we got these range band things down, kind of, we kind of get the concept there. But it is, and I got to tell you, the one thing I haven't run yet is Space Combat, because that's the one thing that's probably going to be pretty rough with the system, because you do have that kind of, well, I'm moving towards you and you're moving away from me, and then who's actually going to close on who to get the, on whom to get to the right range and all this kind of stuff. So it's going to take. And the one thing I do like about gaming and conventions is that most of the time that I've run a game where I've wanted to run the system, I've really enjoyed, trying to making up the stuff to go with it, but I really haven't done the nuts and bolts of it that much. Usually the con games, they're all pretty forgiving. They're all like, oh, if we're having a good time, we can fudge a few things, Now, if we were playing in a campaign, by God, you better get it right. But at a con game, woo,
Because if
and then we just go.
Yeah. And Tracie, this is going to be your first convention game, isn't it?
It is my first convention game. Nice. Yes, indeed. Nice. This year was my first year running at Guild, so.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to love it. Because Will's right. There's a lot more free. Now, I say this, and then that guy's going to show up at your table. But
right.
Right. Yeah.
But for the most part, people are a lot more easygoing because they're not as attached to it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. They're not as attached to the character, so yes, you lose a little bit. If they're not careful, you get a little metagaming in there. But, I haven't run in that whole lot other than I got to come back to a question real quick before I forget. Pookie, is your wife crafty Is she getting her cyborg implanted weapons? Oh no, I brought up a sore subject. I brought up a sore subject.
I haven't talked to her about this yet, so I don't know if she's listening. I went back and looked because I actually did put down in my notes from the last game with the same party how much credits they were going to get.
Okay.
So I wanted to spread that money around to the ship and everything else. The thing about it is I'm not sure with what they did, the way the experience system is set up, and I want to advance them to like one more, like they've done one system and get them up so they can do a few things. I don't know if it's enough to do that, but I think I'm going to do. I think what it is, because you have to build hard points in that actually then you put in the weapon systems, if I remember correctly, for droids, like you do for ships.
Hold on
so
a
I
second.
think
you can actually do this in the game.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can actually. Droids are made to be constructible. They're made to be added to and stuff.
Oh, you have my attention.
I think there's changes in. Tracie, correct me if I'm wrong, but Preacher, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can do mods to their programming. You do mods to their body. You can add armor to them.
You can do mods to everything. You can do mods to weapons. In Force and Destiny, you can do mods to lightsabers. I just got one of the source books that showed about how you can do the different mods you can do to lightsabers to hide them and to turn them into different weapons, because Force and Destiny is during a time when you're not walking around with a lightsaber on your hilt. Or on your belt. You've got to have it covered. So if you don't want to cause lethal damage, you can put this cap on the end of it, and it becomes a melee weapon. And I was like, okay, that works. And it has the whole mechanism for how many credits you need, or how many experience points you need, or what you need to find, and how hard it is to find, and that kind of thing.
From what I remember,
like Ezra's, he has the pistol.
Yeah, like Ezra's, and it's described in there. Right. So on how he did his, and so. Awesome. Yeah,
that's awesome. And that's why the new canon is better than the EU. But go ahead, Pookie.
Yes.
So that's, as far as I remember, you can do that to the droids too. I think you can do that to your droid characters. They can actually build some of their stuff in, if I remember correctly. So I think I'll be able to give her a few adaptations. They may not be the heavy repeater blaster with the optional grenade launcher in her chest that she wants, but
I think she earned that, because I played in that game, and I think she earned that. So I'm just
listen. Just as an aside, the y'all, Preacher and
Mr. Cupcake?
Metalhead. Sorry,
it's only two of us.
And Crafty, they all played in my game, and I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun to run. It was a lot of fun to run. I mean, the way I approach doing these games is I leave a lot of room for. They're gonna mess me up. They're gonna absolutely do something squirrely. So always have a little extra thing over here that I can just toss in there, and y'all be squirrely all you want. That's a great thing, And it was, I think it was a lot of fun.
And then sometimes when you're trying to be serious and stay in character, somebody decides to run as NPC with a full-blown accent, and you just end up losing it. So
I don't know anybody who does that.
I don't know either. I mean, rumors are that Metalhead does it occasionally, but other than that.
I've always wanted, all of us in this little discussion have run games at one time or another.
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but I really love running a game, but I am flat exhausted by the end of it. I mean, because I have found that I will go to a game, and at some point I want to stand up to make a point, and then I realize at the end of the game I never sat back down. I just stood up the whole time.
Yep.
I'm doing voices. I'm doing all the, waving my hands around and doing all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, doing everything but getting a top hat and a cane and doing a dance. And by the end of the thing, I'm like, man, I mean, that was only a few. Why am I so bloody tired? And I'm just exhausted by the game. And so, I don't know.
Yeah,
is that true? Do y'all do the same thing?
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah. But I end up staying seated because I can't.
Pookie is very much a stage and theater, song and dance type of approach to GMing, which is awesome. Because especially at a convention game where you never know who you're going to have sitting at the table. So those times, just by law of averages, you're going to be getting somebody who, yes, they like role-playing games, or they're curious about the story blurb that was in the program, so they want to check it out, but they in actuality are a very, very quiet wallflower type of role player. If one of those people sits at Will's game, within 30 or 45 minutes, they are much more interactive and much more demonstrative, just by virtue of the whole method man routine that Pookie presents behind the screen.
And you're
very
right.
It's very much an osmosis thing.
And for not being Italian, he's a very
There's a lot of
Italian-esque.
you guys are putting a lot of pressure on me.
Well, you got
you got a lot of pressure on me.
You're like me too. I don't know if anybody's ever been around when I'm jamming with my pointer. Has anyone been around that?
Oh yeah.
You got to wear eye protection. I mean, because I'm very animated too. But the two most dangerous places to stand are right next to Pookie when he's jamming, because you're gonna get the hands. You're gonna be dodging hands.
Oh yeah.
Or between him and the flea market.
The wings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've learned. Yes.
Yes. Do not stand between Pookie and the opening doors of the flea market room at the convention.
Or any of the tables in the flea market.
Place.
I do not know what you're talking about. I feel maligned here. I just want to point this out that I am cool, calm, and collected when I'm approaching someone about purchasing certain items. I'm just saying.
Yes,
you
when
are very
approaching
clear
that
in your
person.
desires. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I figure you have to be clear with the with the salesperson as to what you want now.
It's the people who are in between you and the salesperson who need to, run for their lives.
Yeah.
I feel,
or so I've heard.
I feel if they had better situational awareness, they would see me, see the stuff, and they would not get between us. It just, I don't know. It's not my fault. That's all
I gotta tell you, that flea market has blown up too, because
Yes.
I remember before Recon, Preacher, I don't remember where we were talking about. You might have done it on the Happy Hour podcast. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But you were talking about how, like, you went to your first flea market, did a 180, and you were like,
Yep. Walked right back out.
I have never felt that way in one of the flea markets until this past Recon. I got
that last one, looking in the open doors that were only open for a brief moment because they couldn't get the doors to stay open, which I think made it worse. Like, I looked in and went, oh yeah, no, that's too many people. And then the doors closed, and I went, and I'm done, because had I been in there, we would have heard me screaming. So,
And I had to get out. I found a great deal. I pulled a Pookie, and I dove on and started just grabbing boxes of stuff. And I'm like, how much is
this what we're calling it now? Is this what we're calling it now?
I pookied. It's a verb now. We just made it I pookied. And but
well, that's one way. That's one way to be famous, I guess. I don't know.
It was, but I'll tell you what. Like, that was the one thing I was interested in. There wasn't a whole lot I personally was looking for, but there was a ton of stuff at the flea market this time. And I say that because the last few times it's been, I don't want to knock it too much, but it's almost been a little soft. And I felt like there were people dealing this time, and I'm for the first time in a while, I'm really excited about the flea market at Hurricon.
Well, I think too the setting is the difference, because the flea market, the first time that I went and we were in the old location, the room seemed a little darker, it was a little smaller, and it just kind of had this dungeon crawl type of feel to it.
Which we normally like. Which we normally like.
I needed to check for traps before I went in. I had to watch for the rogues who were going to stab me in the back. And here, because in the new space, because it's such a bigger room and it was very bright, and so you kind of went and went, oh, okay, that's not so bad. Because I almost started to go in because the doors were open and it was bright and there was a lot of people moving. And I thought, okay, there's movement. It looks like there's a whole circle I could do, and I could get all the way around. And then I kind of got a better view and went, oh, there's way more people this time. No, I'm all right. I'll just stay over here.
I had
that was something that I noticed this time too, and I was very happy to see, because Cupcake, Mr. Cupcake, you are correct. I mean, the past few flea markets that have been happening at Hurricon and Recon shows have been fairly well attended as far as number of tables, but the offerings at those tables have been kind of meh. The last show, not only were there a few more table vendors, all of them had a lot more stuff, and much more of that stuff was really good quality.
Yes.
So that was cool. I mean, I still didn't get anything at this last flea market because there's only two things that I saw that I really kind of wanted, but they were single miniatures within an entire set that the guy was only selling the whole squad of.
Yeah.
It just I mean, it's been good stuff. It just hasn't been my stuff.
Yeah. My thing is, I usually. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's been a while since I got anything out of the flea market. Three or four shows ago, I got a set of an unopened set of the Great Coat Troopers from War Games Factory from Ray that he had gotten and then never painted. So I got a box of those. And then before that, it was probably a good 3 or 4 shows prior to that when I last got something. When Control was still at the shows, I got I got the 3 or 4 the 3 or 4 books from first edition GURPS Space that each describes one whole sector of just a generic GURPS Space setting sectors. Got those for a steal. Fantastic. He had them priced for like $5 each. I bought them all, so he cut the price in half.
Nice. And that's how it's been. Yeah, it's like it's kind of feast or famine with me too. But this time they look like my usual thing is I go grab some fire from Doc because he does a lot of good handcrafted stuff. So I'll grab a little something from him. But this time it just seemed like there was a lot of really good stuff. And since we're on the topic, let's go ahead and talk about Hurricon real quick. It is, what are the dates? Give me the info, the lowdown there, Veep.
All right, hold on one brief moment. I need to take a.
I have it memorized.
Is it tattooed on your arm?
It's not because I have to look it up. It's because I need to take a drink of water.
Oh, whoa.
Hold on, just.
Okay.
Hold on, just.
Get the Oscar music ready.
Okay. Hurricon 2017, hosted by HMGS South, is running Thursday, September 28th through Sunday, October 1st. And this is happening at the Park Inn by Radisson Resort and Convention Center. This is technically in Kissimmee. It is on U.S. Highway 192. In fact, the property itself sits about half a mile south of the property line of Disney's Animal Kingdom. Really, really good hotel. This will be our second show at the new facility. Very nice facility. Hotel rooms are really good. The convention space is fantastic. The main room is bigger, so we can do more stuff in it. We can have some of the tournament gameplay activity that used to be kind of, pushed off into their own respective rooms. We can have those tournament games on the main floor now.
Yeah.
So all the action happens in one spot. Ceiling is very, very high, so the sound level is muted a little bit. Lighting is fantastic. Climate control is solid. And once again, the hotel rooms themselves are quite good and cheap. Inexpensively cheap, not quality cheap, price cheap. It is $82 a night, plus sales tax, plus hotel bed tax. But there is no resort fee like what most hotels try and gouge you for. That is written out of the contract that HMGS has for the shows. So $82 for Kissimmee, literally on the doorstep of Disney, is insane. You cannot get a better room rate.
Yeah, the location is incredible. I mean, and I'll plug our friends over at Happy Hour with Jonny and Duce. I know I heard you guys did a 2-parter on Recon, and you guys were talking a lot about, and he also talked to Mark Reba, the president,
Yes.
the president of HMGS South.
The president.
So by all means,
It's a
go
new
listen
term.
to them too, and definitely want to plug them. So as we kind of wind down here, Preacher, why don't you give us, if I want to contact the Lakeland Role Playing Guild, which I know we didn't get a lot into the LRPG tonight. Suffice it to say, you guys are awesome. If you want to role play in Lakeland, Florida, that is the only place to go. And in my opinion, in Central Florida, if you're from Tampa or Orlando, it's worth the drive. So
Yeah, we have people coming from Land O'Lakes now.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the Lakeland Role Playing Guild is about to enter its 18th year of existence. On September 8th is our annual meeting. We meet on the 2nd and 4th Fridays of every month at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Lakeland, which is located at 3140 Troy Avenue. It's tucked back off of South Florida and Edgewood, that kind of area. We start at 7 p.m. on those Friday nights, and we run until about 11:30. We are currently running about 4 scheduled tables, and what that means is GMs have submitted games to us, and we promote those games. And it's every kind of, rule set you can find. This last session, we were running Dungeons and Dragons, 2 Pathfinder games, and a Savage Worlds game. So we've got a wide variety of things coming up, and even more games coming forward. We do miniatures, we do board games, card games. We have a dedicated teen table that I am proud to say that my 17-year-old stepson is the GM for. And so he runs for 4 hours, 2 Fridays a month, for all of our teens and tweens who are just getting started into gaming. We're family friendly. And we have kids at our tables now, which is fantastic to see, that kids are learning how to game and game with their parents, and sometimes at tables separate from their parents, which is a great sight. And so we can be found at lakeland-rpg.com on the web, or at Facebook, Lakeland RPG, all one word, same with Twitter. And if you want to come out, just come on out. You can find us on Facebook. That usually lists our events, and you'll know what's going on for the next session. And you can shoot me a message through there if you want to get in on a specific game table, which I highly recommend, because our tables are starting to fill up pretty quickly ahead of time, which is really great. And at our annual meeting on the 8th, we will renew memberships. We do allow people to come for 2 times for free. Come check us out, see if you like it. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, after about 2 times, we do like you to join, because that helps pay our rent. And dues for the coming year will be $40 per person. And that averages to about $1.74 per session. So you're paying $1.74 to game for 4 hours and not have to do anything but show up with dice, or not even dice. Sometimes you can just show up with a pencil and someone will loan you dice. So
For the
come
price
on
of
out,
a quarter cup of Starbucks.
I don't want to do that to anybody.
Right.
For the price of a quarter cup of Starbucks.
That's right.
And
you can have gaming.
I have to say one quick plug for kind of piggybacking on what you said a second ago. In one of the biggest fears you can ever face as a GM is when the young people descend on your table. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things, because
with Eric and JDL.
What's that? Oh,
nope, continue.
Oh, sorry. So that's like one of, you see the kids come and you go, okay, what am I in for? And I ran a game that was I forget how many players I had at the table exactly, but it was like 6 or 8 of the LRPG young people. I'm not going to call them kids, because for God's sakes, they're like maturities off the roof here. But they were so fantastic to game with. And it was it was an absolute pleasure. And you can go there, and if you see a young person walking towards your table, you don't have to worry. You're actually guaranteed to get a good player. And it was one of the best, if not the best, gaming experience that I've ever had as a GM. It was, and your stepson sat at that table right next to me, and it was, I can't sing the praises enough. I mean, I could practically do my own podcast just on that alone, how happy that made me. So, anyway.
Well, we have, for Activity Year 18, we have one of our teenagers has submitted a game to run.
Wow.
She is going to run a game. She is going to run a game in Activity Year 18. So we, and that's the other thing too, I talk about a lot with our friends at Happy Hour with Jonny and Duce, is that we have women gamers, we have children gamers, we, families, adults, young adults, the whole 9 yards. We are a large gaming family, and we would love to have anyone come out and check us out.
Absolutely. And if you follow the Just Dice League, you can catch us on Facebook, and we try to do my best to share the events for LRPG, so you can find their links on our website as well. I believe I have you guys linked on the side there, and that is the justdiceleague.org. And you can find me on YouTube, or the JDL on YouTube. Just search for Just Dice League. And then also you can catch us on Twitter at Just Dice League. So I just want to thank my guests / fellow members / HMGS South fellow members.
You're here.
The circle Venn diagram for tonight.
Yes.
But just thank you guys very much for joining me and sitting in. And we've got to do this again.
On, man.
This was a blast. I really enjoyed this.
This was fun. Thank you.
I could have done this for another hour.
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Easily done this for another hour. So, but there's this whole real life thing we got to all worry about.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Slackers.
I'm going to get kicked in the face by a toddler in the next 45 minutes to an hour, so it's all good. So anyway, till next time, thank you for listening, and game well. Game very well. Music courtesy of BENSOUND. You can visit him at bensound.com.